So I was so excited about these lights. I mean,
it is exciting.
I got them for Christmas.
Oh,
That's the
dope.
only thing I wanted for Christmas is these lights.
Really?
And for those of you who's watching on YouTube, this is what we're recording. This is how we came in last time. We were talking about cereal. But
Really?
yeah, the intro. I love my intros.
You talking about some weird stuff.
Yeah, I got these lights. If y'all watching on YouTube, that are huge and
they are bright. I'm gonna take
but
some
they're
selfies.
Not like I'm
gonna take some selfies before I leave.
They're not like hurting bright.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't supposed to look in the light no way, but I mean,
even if I look into it,
it takes a minute.
It felt like you gazing into the gates of heaven.
Yeah, but that one ring light hurt.
I believe it.
I mean, that thing hurt, and you don't need it. I turn on the ring light, and you don't even need it. It's just for aesthetics at that point.
Yeah, mine's not that big, and it doesn't hurt, so I'm intimidated.
I was gonna get 2 big ring lights, but that's for more like products, and you can lower that one down for like a personal one, or you can turn the brightness down. But anyway, that's enough about lights. Welcome back to No Tact Talk Podcast. This is your host Jay Coates. This is the second episode. This is the second episode of 2021. I was able to do the first one, obviously, on Facebook Live, which was fun. I did a recap of 2020, so check that one if you missed it. A lot of people liked it. I had a whole list of random stuff that happened throughout the year, good and bad. I know a lot of bad happened, but good stuff as well. So that was fun, and I have the privilege to have, you've probably seen his face before. If you heard the podcast, what would we name it? Crockpot, right? We were actually here before. I love doing an in-person podcast, but you can't bring everybody in your house. So
right.
A lot of times,
I'm honored.
It's gonna be Zoom. Anyway, so if you don't know her name is Janitta Nichols. She is an author, and I just got my book like today. Oh my God, she brought it to me. I'm so excited. She's gonna sign it. Wish I had a permanent marker. The Secrets of My Mother: Breaking Free from Generational Curses and Trauma, based on a true story. Gotta say that based on a true story.
Yeah.
Again, super dope cover. Now I have one for myself, and I always tell people, the aesthetics of a book is super important.
Yeah.
Because
it's pretty.
It's a science in it. Barnes and Nobles did a study about obviously placement, but when you pick up the book, how it's supposed to feel
make you feel. Yeah.
It's
But see, that's why I wanted it to be matte, because I feel like it gave it more of a realistic feel.
Yeah.
Versus like the gloss thing. And I felt like it would take away from the cover, because the cover is real. And one thing that I want to say is about this cover, for people who don't know, is like this was the actual house that I had to jump out the window and run from. So I don't know if you remember me telling you that in the trailer, but this is the actual house when I was 16 years old that I literally jumped out of after the fight with my stepfather to go get help. So backyard, fortunately, her grass was cut, the lady who lives there now, because our grass wasn't. It was filled with like toys and dog stuff, and just, it was horrible. But she allowed us, which I'm so thankful for her to allow us to use her backyard. But literally, I'm thankful for her name is Frenchie. It's a girl that I had the honor of meeting in Cincinnati. But
so you approached the front door like, hey, I need to use your backyard.
You want that story? Yeah. So look, God literally sent me on a journey for this whole thing. Like, I'm telling you, like, everything was literally, I wish I could say like there was like this clear cut plan. It was like literally take the next step. And after one step, it was like, once I completed it, here's the next step. So when I called my photographer to talk to him about the vision that God gave me for the cover, because all of this was a dream, I called him and he was like, well, why try to find a house that fits the image? Why not just go back to the same house? And I'm like, well, I live in Texas, that's in Georgia, and you in Ohio. So that's going to be kind of hard. So one day I set up a meeting with him and I made a layover in Atlanta. So I was like, I can kill 2 birds in one stone.
Yeah.
So I made my layover in Atlanta like 4 to 5 hours. And so I go to the street. I call my sister because we had to call her.
And she still doesn't know.
No.
Okay.
So my sister, she still lives in Georgia.
I love it.
So I called my sister and I'm like, can you come pick me up and take me to the house that we used to live on? So we get there and we trying to figure out the house. I'm like, I know it's this one. And we couldn't get in the backyard. So long story short, I go knock on the door and there was nobody there. And I was mad. I was like,
at
okay.
that point, you got to do it.
I was like, but I knock on the door and nobody answers. So I'm like, God, you sent me here. So I thought everything was going to be in order when I got there. Like, I'm thinking the lady literally on her couch with a word from God to know that I'm coming to find her. And when I get there, she wasn't there. So I was frustrated. It started to rain. I get back in the car. And I'm like, God, you just set me up for like the whole okie doke.
And then it rained.
Yes.
So you couldn't jump the fence?
Nope.
Was it a fence to jump?
It was a nice high fence. I'm not jumping.
Like
Look at this.
Oh yeah.
It was a pretty. It was one of them fences that you could find, a foot loop.
But calling the cops on you.
So I sit there in the car and I tell my sister like, okay, forget it. Take me back to the airport. And God was like, I didn't tell you to leave yet. You need to try harder. And on my head, I'm just like arguing with God, what is the try harder? So I was like, I'm about to be embarrassed. I got to go start knocking on doors. So I'm knocking on doors trying to see if people can tell me if they know the person who lives there. So after I knock on a few doors, I get no answer. There was a lady who came out of her porch, like to the left of the house. And I was like, okay, I'll just go over there and try to talk to her.
Now, was she like one of them ladies that always be outside that just know everything about the neighborhood?
Yep.
Okay, see, there you go.
So I go up to her and I talk to her and I tell her who I am. I tell her my story. I give her my card that I had made from Vistaprint. And I just tell her who I am. And I was like, I'm really looking for the lady next door. And this is why. So I tell her and I'm like, can you just see if you can give her a message for me and just have her call me? But even before I left, I was like, let me just write a note. And she had this mailbox that water can get into. But I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to write the note. I wrote a note about who I was and I put it in her mailbox. And I want to say it took a couple days, but she finally called me. And when she called me, this is the God part. She was like, I moved here over 10 years ago. And when I came here, I had this eerie feeling that something happened in this house. And she was like, so I prayed over the house and it was so anointed because she was like, God literally put me here for this reason and this time for you to be able to come in contact with me.
Woman at that.
Yep. That was the crazy part.
Yeah.
She was like, when I told her my story and what happened, she was so touched by my story. She was like, yeah, you guys can do whatever you want with my house. Mind you, in the middle of COVID, I think her husband had just had COVID or either tested for it and just had surgery, something like that. But she was like, yeah, y'all can come down, bring your crew. I was like, I'll respect, your privacy. I'll make sure.
Okay, so the layover was just to set up.
Yeah, just to set up. Just for me to get the house.
So you ended up doing more than what you thought you were going to do in the first place.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing the videos and everything. Like, it was a
me having to go there. So the whole video, mind you, I went down there with $500 in my pocket. So mind you, I can't afford to get my crew to Atlanta. That's the first thing. I didn't have the money to hire people or bring people to Atlanta. I didn't have the money to pay for the book cover. I barely had the money to get to Atlanta. Thank God for Delta Sky Miles.
Yes.
But I didn't have the money to make the trip. I didn't have the money to pay the photographer or the videographer. It was just me going on faith. And I was supposed to go to Cincinnati and I was going to sleep in my car to go to these meetings. And I literally debated with my husband before, like, should I even go? We got bills to pay. This is like all we have left. And he was like, if God told you to go, you got to do it. And so literally when I was in Atlanta, somebody.
Shout out to the husband.
Yeah. You feel me? Somebody sent me some money to pay for the whole trip. It was like the whole time. It was just like a whole bunch of steps of faith. So yeah, back to the point. This was the actual house and she let us shoot and film. She let us get it the whole day and we just made it happen.
So, man. So how do you get to the point to where you can just act on faith like that? I know we got way more stuff to talk about, but that just kind of hit me. Like, how do you get to the point to where, like, well, because without that story, I just acted on faith. I just did that. I let God handle it. I get asked it all the time because I always tell people I got time. I'm the person to fight it, whatever. But people like, well, I hear what everybody's saying. I hear what my grandma saying. I hear what everybody's saying. Like, but how do I walk in faith, like, and be smart about it, quote unquote? Because I don't want to be out here broke. I don't want to just be, risking my flight or whatever.
Making decisions and not knowing.
And I know there's like definitely, with faith there comes a lot of fear. But how do you act in it?
For me, I think I was left with no choice but to trust God.
Yeah.
Because I tried to make so many decisions and try to find my own way to get to finding my purpose. And when I had no choice but to trust God, it was like I was left with God or nothing. And I hate to say that, but it kind of got to that point. And
that makes sense.
And for me, it was like every step that I took, God sent confirmation, and it made it easier to trust Him. So in the confirmation,
you like, well, let me say that too. Before I forget, I've told people that as well. I'm so glad you said that. I said, well, then they say, well, what does confirmation look like? I said, when there's when no human being could have made that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could just dumb it down, when there was no possible way that you could have done it, because that's what God, does. He does things that are amazing that we could not physically do.
Yeah.
So if you still got ways to do things, that ain't God. You just working towards His next.
You made it happen
epicenter
yourself.
of what you can do.
Yeah.
Right?
And I could have taken out a loan. I could have went to a bank. I could have taken out a loan and made myself go in debt. And I'm gonna tell you what the confirmation was for me, because I feel like I have to give it to you practically. It's easy to say like, oh yeah, just trust God. He gives you this feeling. But one, I was left with no other choice but to trust God. Mm-hmm. And two, what God was calling me to do, I knew I had no capabilities of doing in my own power. And so for me, it was like, write a book. You never written a book. You have no college degree. You didn't study writing. You don't know how a book's supposed to look or the format. So the night before I was getting ready to go to Cincinnati, right? The night before I was getting ready to go, I was crying. I was like, man, all we have is $500 and I think it was like $25. And I'm telling my husband, like, this is stupid. If I go up here, I still got to eat. I got to get a rental car. I got to get all these different things, and I'm panicking. And I had a whole bunch of friends, which I told you last episode about that epicenter, who just kept reminding me, like, this is what God is telling you to do. I had dreams. I had people praying for me. It was my line of communication with God. Like when I started to get into deeper communication with God, it was like He started to communicate with me in a way that I was able to receive it. And I get to the airport. This was like the biggest confirmation for me. I get to the airport, and I'm not trying to be funny. When most men try to talk to me, I be, a little eerie, like of their intentions. So I'm in the airport, I'm in line, and I'm about to check in my bags. My mind is still going. Like I'm just trying to figure all of this out. And it was a guy behind me, and he just strikes up a random conversation. Where I'm going, what am I doing?
I don't like guys like that.
But I did. It was like, for me, it was like a little cautious at first. But then he started telling me about his wife. He's an older guy. He had to be like...
So, you trying to be your sugar daddy. I don't care.
But, oh my goodness.
They older. The older they are, the more money they got.
I'm trying to tell you about God's confirmation.
Black or white?
He was black.
Okay, maybe. No, they the same. I don't know. Did he have a cane?
No, but he had on a wedding ring.
So, what did his shoes look like?
I didn't look at his shoes.
You gotta look at the
man. He was fresh, though.
So, okay, was he like modern fresh, or was he like old school sugar daddy fresh?
I'm not about to answer that question.
Did he shine his shoes?
I didn't look at his shoes.
Man.
Anyway, I didn't look at his shoes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So we talking, and I tell him what I'm about to do, and then it was my turn to go up. So I was like, okay, it was nice meeting you. I told him about me writing this book or whatever, about me, following God, and never told him my financial situation, never told him anything. I check in at Delta, and I go to my gate, and I'm sitting there, and I'm still on my phone, and I'm just trying to think about everything that I have going. So he comes back. And I'm like, oh my God, what do you want? But he was cool. So he sits down, he takes out a pen and a paper, and he was like, can you tell me a little bit more about your story? So I tell him about my book, but in my mind, I'm like, is this man stealing? Is he like stealing?
Your ideas.
Yeah, my ideas. So I was a little leery, but I tell him about my experience. He goes in his pocket and pulls out a wad of money, wraps it in this paper, and give it to me. And on the paper, it said, this is from me and my wife. God wanted us to tell you to keep going because people need to hear your story.
So, like, how come that never happened to me? No, I mean...
I don't know.
I got stuff I need to work on just like anybody else.
Oh, my goodness.
I ain't never had nobody.
Listen, guys, don't do this.
No, I am going to do it because somebody's thinking
I'm
right
telling
now.
them don't do it.
But no, like, I hear all these stories. And so that's what I'm saying, like, to my point, without, elongating it. I feel like that everybody has their own path, right? And so we're not even talking about all the stuff that you've been through,
right?
We just talking about when you decide to live for God. We just talking about the faith aspect. You walking in what not feel, but that God has for you, and you was at the airport and you get a wad of cash from a random guy. Does that happen every day? No. I mean.
I feel like maybe your wad of cash isn't literally a wad of cash.
Mine is not financial.
Right. Maybe it's something else that God does that is not on the financial aspect.
Correct.
So
that's why I think people get it messed up, is because they think that their issue is finances.
But money isn't everything too. Because I've had it's like, let's take the money out of it. I had somebody recently who we just talking
about money just for the production and all the other stuff.
Well, this money allowed me to say, I called my husband, was like, babe, guess what? I can get a rental car now. I don't have to stress it. We can still use the money for bills. When I get to Atlanta, that was just the first one, bro. When I get to Atlanta, somebody cash apps me $450 and say, this is for your book, make it a best time seller. I'm blown away by God because now I can get a room to stay in. Now I don't have to sleep in my car or sleep on a friend's couch.
Plan. Friend's couch car.
Yeah. When I got the money, I was like, okay, I can get the car now. I was going to sleep in my car. But then my husband was like, no, just go sleep over, such and such house. And I was like, I want to be comfortable. But I was like, if that's what I have to do, that's what I would do. So now I was like, I can get a room now. And then I get to Ohio, and another person cash apps me $250 and said, this is for your book, make it a best time seller.
So now I'm like, what type of friends do you have to... Because again,
I have very supportive and loving friends.
Man,
I have very.
I just be asking people to listen to the podcast.
You feel me? But see, what it is like it's gonna take that one listener and that one episode to take you, and just being diligent because my diligence, and when I realized, like when I got to Atlanta, and it wasn't just a knock on the door and everything being right there for me. God wants you to do work too, and your faith works. Like you have to put work behind your faith. Like I could have easily been like, well, God, it didn't work. Get in the car and I could have left, and none of this could have happened. But I was willing to continue to trust God that he sent me there for a reason. So in my mind, it's like I have to continue to push. I have to continue to find, okay, if God said come to this door, and it's not opening with the key that I found, then there must be another way in. And so that's my perception of every step that I get to. Like, it may not happen the way I want it to, but if God sent me to that place, then there's a door for me to open. But even in me trying to find the door that was supposed to be open, my faith was increased. Other people was able to hear my message because it's not just about us. So now this lady who could have not heard my story, I don't know what she's dealing with probably. The neighbor could have been saved or impacted by me sharing my story with her, when it could have just been a straight way for me sharing my story with this one person. But everybody that I came in contact with on that journey was able to hear part. Right. And so I feel like as long as you continue to push and pursue, if you know that God sent, and I feel like sometimes what God calls us to do that is truly our purpose is something that's outside of our normal capabilities. I know for a fact that I cannot be an author or a writer without God. There's times to where I'm writing and I get frustrated and I'm like, okay, God, let me step back. What do you want me to say? And if God doesn't speak right then and there, then I wait until he says something. So it was a journey.
Well, that's another question I had, which is like way down there, but I remember. What is your creative process like when you we can start with the book or stuff that you're working on now? What does that look like? And you ain't got to give like the secret sauce to it or nothing, but
well, for me, I have to atmosphere and scents are my thing.
Scents.
I love smells.
Yeah, you do.
So
yes, you do.
So I love smells. I love candles. I love oils. It's just like it's like the fragrance. It just it's like soothing to me. So I like candles. I love the lights.
What's your favorite smell? Cucumber melon, vanilla.
No, it's this
roasted almonds.
I cannot stand him.
Burnt orange.
I love Bath and Body Works candles. It's this one that smells, I can't think of the name, but it smells like the Abercrombie and Fitch store. But that's probably like my favorite one is the smell of that store.
They always spray a little
Yeah, but they actually have a candle. It's a black candle. I can't think of what it's called. It's a black little glass thing from Bath and Body Works. And I love that smell. But it really, I don't have a specific scent when it comes to setting the atmosphere. I just put on like I got an oil tea light my husband bought me, thank you so much, and I just turn it on and I just put the little block of whatever wax in there and it just melts. And
of course I follow you on Instagram and you look like you're like in the zone. I don't know if that's a filter or if it's just like you just be in the dark for no reason.
I love the dark because I love the dark and I love the candles. It's like the whole atmosphere.
You got blue light protection on your glasses?
Nope,
I lose some eyesight through this journey now.
You're right.
I'm here for you.
I probably will, but it's the only way I have to. It's like and I turn on my music. I have a Google speaker, and I say to my Google speaker, play such and such, and my favorite thing to play is Naomi Rain. So
that a song or artist?
Artist.
I gotta look her up.
Her name Naomi Rain, and I just set the atmosphere for me, and I just sit there and I think. And for my creative process, I have to write down what I want to accomplish, and I tack it onto my wall. So if you look on my left side, I have a bunch of sheets of paper of things that I feel like God told me, or I know God told me, and I write it down, and I just sit there and I just go. I have my desktop that I do research on because I feel like, I'm not going to say I feel like, I hate saying that. When you're on a journey of something, especially extensive as what God has me doing, there's a learning process too. So I might have on my computer like a course that I'm taking to learn how to write better, how to create memorable characters, how to create certain things, and I'm watching it and then I'm doing it on my laptop. So for me, it's just I go in the room to myself and I just turn on my worship music, and sometimes I might sit there and start crying.
You ever listen to rap music while you're doing it? Is it just worship music?
No.
Just worship.
I feel like the worship goes better with the lights being off and like if I get some flickering lights, maybe like some party lights, and I could probably listen to rap. You know, like the lights that go colorful when you at a party.
Well, it's funny because I think everybody has their own creative process, but they find reasons to not, do it. And so it's just about getting yourself in that environment. I was listening to a podcast, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher, 3-minute podcast, bro. Anyway, he's talking about trusting your process.
Yeah.
And trusting, and it's cliche. It's super cliche. He's all these quotes, fortune cookie references, whatever I always call them. But doing what it takes for you to be successful. So like in the natural, and then letting God provide the supernatural. So you know what it takes to get yourself in that mode. Yeah. So another thing about this as well I want to touch on is like your drive is stupid. I mean,
thank you.
It's crazy. And so, like, I'm looking at it because, I've never had nobody on here that I don't research. I be watching, I know you don't on here. But so I see certain people, like, I was supposed to have somebody on here, and I think I talked to them because, I always talk to people before I do the episode because I want that to be the first time that we talk. And then I follow them. I see what they're doing. I said, what's their day like? What are they posting? And I was like, I canceled it.
Yeah. Cause you didn't see anything.
Well, half of it was like just clout stuff. Like it was terrible. I'm not even gonna tell them like what type of field they were in or nothing. But you see people who are just posting it just to feed the beast, and I get it. It's part of social media. We all have to do it, but you could tell it's like it's proctored. What's the word? It's staged rather. Yeah. And so when I see you, it seems extremely authentic. You be dancing. You have like
that's my process too.
Yeah, your coffee.
When I get frustrated and I can't like think no more, I have to step away from it sometimes. But I'm not gonna walk away from it. So I might like step away for a second just to kind of like decompress. Like if I've been like
hanging out with the kids.
Yeah, like I might have been running for a few hours, and then sometimes my favorite thing to do, which I can't do, but I dance. I turn up my music real loud.
Me neither.
And I just I just start dancing at my computer. But I feel like when it comes to me posting on social media, I hate social media, but I feel like it's one thing to just post people the product of what I've done. But I want people to know that there's a process behind it. Like, it's not always easy. It's not just always this, God is going to do this, and I'm so confident in what I'm doing. There's always that uncertain part, and that part where I get discouraged, that part where I'm hurting, and I don't. And I want to show that to people because I feel like I'm at a place in my life where I feel like vulnerability has been allowing me more to connect with my audience, because I want people to know that God knows that there's going to be moments that you doubt what it is that he told you to do. And so there's sometimes where I'm sitting there and it's not I'm crying because I'm sad, but I might break out into worship. You know what I'm saying? Like, it might cause me to break out into worship where I'm happy. And so I just want to give my authentic self, because I don't want people to have that facade that you have to be fake in order to be able to do things for God, or that you have to be this person who believes at all times or who is happy and encouraged at all times. Like, there's times where
That's exactly what I was about to get to. Because people think, because that's what I'm saying, like, I always pretend I'm the person, even when I'm doing this right now, I always pretend I'm the person listening and they don't know. Yeah. Because this is my ministry. This is my, going out and writing a book or whatever. And so I'm always thinking about the person, like, y'all say that so easily. Like, well, I just broke out in the worship. Like, what does that look like? And so you have to find first, like, purpose. Hey, I have a bunch of episodes on purpose. Y'all can go back to other episodes. I ain't even trying to waste some time, but when you get to where you're supposed to be, and there was another question I had, does it feel like that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, like you're in your element when you're writing or doing whatever you got to do?
I do. I feel like when I'm writing, it's the happiest and the most joy that I've been able to experience in a long time.
So
like
that's their form of worship.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when I experience that joy, sometimes it's overwhelming. And what breaks me into worship sometimes is that I'm in awe of what God is doing through me. And so when I sit and think about it, but I also think about like how I don't deserve the vision. Like when he gave me the vision for what it is that he's getting ready to take me to, that vision of me seeing that, and I'm like, God, you want to do that with me? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, how could you want to, and I'm getting even goosebumps even thinking about it, but it's just like, how can you want to do that through me? And so I've taken me not wanting to do something, or me, the hurt that I experience, I'm vulnerable with that to God. And sometimes the vision gets cloudy and I have to shut everything off. Like one weekend, I literally got off social media. I think I told you, like I told people I'm not going to have my phone. I turned my phone off because I felt myself beginning to get to a place to where the vision got cloudy and my mind was being tormented with thoughts. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to allow this to continue. I have to shut everything down and go back to God and just make sure that I'm back in my place to remember, and so that the vision can become clear again. And sometimes you have to step away from influence. You have to step away from things that are influencing you to stop believing. And you have to recognize when that red flag comes. Like God gives us red flags, and sometimes we don't adhere to that warning. We just keep pushing through. And so it was like, sometimes I have to shut that down. But it's like what gives me life? You know what I'm saying? Like writing, it like gives me life. It's not about money.
Did you always know that was your thing?
No, I hated writing.
Right.
I hated writing.
A lot of times it's the stuff that you hate. And I don't hate talking, but the work, I hate it because I was lazy.
Yeah, but you're good at.
Yeah.
That you're good at.
But that's what I would tell people all the time, is that when I was crying, searching, praying, mad about finding my purpose, about what I'm good at, I used to think I want to be a drummer. I could still cut hair, but I thought I was gonna be a barber. I try anything like I dive like into like completely. But I was never like great.
But you jump into it without God too. You jump into it because there's no fear there. There's certainty.
That's the natural, 100%. It's just a natural. But like, I guess I never really prayed about each one of them either. But either way, I just try to like give my all, and so that's what the world tells you, to give you 100%. So I got stuff in there. Easels, drawing tools, I got my clip, all types of stuff, but it never, I was good, but I wasn't like great. I wasn't like fulfilled when I got done. It never gave me like that that you're talking about. And I think people seeing your journey, please follow her on Instagram. It's super cool. Thank you. I think that people seeing that, it motivates motivates them to be great in their own aspect, but it might not be what you think it is.
And I think popular, the thing that God called me to required none of my abilities and none of my talents, if that makes sense. Now
qualifies the call.
He did show me in the past where I was good at writing. I used to be a daydreamer, right? So I could be talking to somebody and I would just drift off into a vision. It was like, that's so Raven. But I could literally, I ain't do the I thing. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I would literally drift off into a vision and I would just visualize stuff. Like, say something happened. I used to do this as a police officer. It was so scary. I would visualize a different incident happening than what was actually happening once it was over with.
Did you see Queen's Gambit? On Netflix? Oh man, she did the same thing.
I'll watch it though, because it sounds interesting.
It's too late.
But I would literally visualize a certain incident and it would just like take me off into a vision. I could literally feel it. I didn't know that was a gift that God was giving me. And being a police officer, I had to know how to write good reports. I had to know how to write a report to where you not being there could read my report and understand the whole incident, and there's nothing left to the imagination. And I didn't know the whole time that God was preparing me for writing a book. And so what I thought was like a negative, like my vision, my daydreaming, like I remember people used to say like that's ADHD or something like that. But what I thought was like a negative in my personality, it was like something that God was sharpening for me to be able to be prepared to write. So now when I'm writing, I literally, part of my process I have to close my eyes and I have to visualize.
I'm doing it.
I have to visualize what I'm writing, and I have to experience the emotion of it too, because it also helps me better articulate the scenery, the person's emotions was trying to capture. Now I have been able since this first book to sharpen that to make it a little bit better, but I still feel like for my first book I did an amazing job at that. But I have to feel it. I have to feel what I'm saying from the character. It has to be authentic to me. It has to be real. I can't just be like, John said this and then Sarah said this.
It's really hard for me to have notes. Like, for certain ones like these of stuff I know I want to hit, I'll have notes. But my favorite podcasts are the ones where I don't just go.
Yeah, but I have to feel it. If I don't feel it, I promise you, I will write a whole chapter. My husband will tell you. And I would delete the whole thing because I just wrote it to just write something. And I was like, there was no emotion behind it. I didn't feel it. I didn't connect with that part of my story. And I may delete it. I've written so much in this last year, bro. I probably got I could have wrote 5 books as many words I wrote down and typed
just
up.
Do some poems. Do a haiku. You remember haiku?
I'm not a poet person. School? No, I'm not a poet person. I don't think
haikus even have to rhyme. It's just like 3 sentences.
God just has a greater plan, which, I can't reveal yet.
Oh, I got
and
that.
It's not that I don't want to reveal it because, I don't know why.
You heard it here. No,
you know how the church has this secret. People used to be like, don't let your left hand know what your right hand doing because they might hate.
Right.
I don't care about that. The reason why I can't reveal it is because, 1, I have to give the vision enough time to fully develop. And then 2, when you tell people something too soon, so God can give you a word and you ready to share so that people can know what you're doing. You gotta
be careful who you tell.
Yeah, but I feel like it's not that I don't believe that anybody could speak against what God is doing in my life. So let me say that because then people are like, people pray against you. Yeah. They prayers don't work. What I believe is when I speak something prematurely, not only has it not got to fully develop on paper or in a physical, but it hasn't been able to fully develop in my mind and in my spirit. So if I speak it, I allow somebody else the opportunity to speak against it. And then that part of me that's not fully developed may cling on to what they said. And so now I'm wondering well, can this really happen? And I'm giving people the opportunity to speak doubt into me, not into the vision, because I don't believe in that. But I believe that when you speak something too soon, it hasn't fully developed with you yet. God is still trying to put that inside of you, and it's a seed that still has to grow. And until that seed grows in you to where you can fully stand behind it, because we have to be realistic. Sometimes we don't believe in what we're doing. That time comes, but when you put it out there, you allow so many different. Every time you call somebody, you might just be calling an event. And they're going to give you their opinion, right? They're going to tell you what they feel about it and what they would do. Well, if I tell you my vision, you might be like, well, maybe you should try this and try that because that's happening. People might try to tweak it.
Yeah.
And because it sounds good and it might give you instant gratification, you you know what? I can't take that shortcut. Well, now you didn't take in, bad soil and put it in your seed. And so I just feel like that's the reason why I can't really reveal it yet, because one guy hasn't given me the liberty to.
That's why
but it's still
being
developing.
a huge part of being a friend is being able to listen and just appreciate.
Yeah.
Without having something to say.
And I have those type of people, and I'm thankful. Yeah. I'm thankful that God has definitely given me those friends that I can share with.
Just by default, I'm automatically proud of you. I ain't got no changes. You doing your thing. That's it.
Thank you. Yep. Yeah. Period. And then just be like, I'm so proud of you. Keep pushing. I have a great friend right now. She's like my yang to Meredith, which you hate Grey's Anatomy, but I'm going to say it. But she's really very encouraging and uplifting, and just that person to remind me to keep going and keep pushing. And I have those friends that when God tells me, I got to be like, oh my God, girl, I got to tell you what God because that's where I've been at. And it's just oh my God, that's awesome. That's amazing. You can do it. Well, what's your process? What's your steps? What are you going to do? I don't know yet. I just know that God said this.
That's it. Okay, bye.
This is about to happen. Let me go back into prayer because I got excited. I hang up and I just keep going. So that's literally, that's it.
That's the process. So before we get to our sponsor. Oh, yeah.
We got a sponsor?
Ben got sponsors.
Okay.
No, I shout them out right now. I just want to make sure I ain't forget. LiveFearlesslyShop.com. Insert music for the promotional music. Super dope company. Should be wearing that shirt right now, but I'm not. I always say that. But
I need to get you my shirt so I can be a sponsor.
Do it. I'll make you.
Got you.
Make you a sponsor. Anyway, LiveFearlesslyShop.com. Super dope company. I always say this first too before I read the little blurbage, but the shirt is very washable. If you're going to get a shirt, make sure it's very washable. A lot of shirts that you buy,
you wash them and it's done.
And it's done. It's done. One time we supported this friend of ours, not going to say who it was, wore the shirt, super dope shirt, awesome Instagram picture. I washed the shirt, wanted to wear it the next week. And as soon as I got it to dry, I guess the print or whatever was
I've had that before.
And it happens.
I've had that.
But before you buy the product, at least buy your own shirt once.
Yeah.
Try it out.
And
anyway,
wash it a few times.
So their mantra is to be fearless is to be bold. And they talk about in Ephesians 6:20 that it says, declare it fearlessly. It says that our company creates pieces that come in assorted colors, bold statements, and a bold look. All pieces are designed for you to walk fearlessly in declaring God's truth. So, great company, obviously a great mission, Christian based, and I do recommend you go to livefearlesslyshop.com.
I got you. I'm going to check it out. I love Christian apparel, so I'm definitely
and it's funny. And I'm gonna tell you, it's a lot harder for I mean, people call me a Christian-based podcast. It is, but like it's not. Like I end up in the scripture where we talking about God or not. It's definitely sprinkled in there.
You just reminded me because you cursed me out for. Well, you didn't use profanity, but you did let me have it last time that you didn't pray.
I prayed right before you got here. I did.
Oh, I thought it was like something you gotta do on camera. I was like, you forgot.
Oh no, I mean,
I'm saying I thought it was like, okay, cool. So he prayed without me, so I didn't need the anointing. I was.
It's in the room.
He trusted that I just came in ready. But
I want to say the first maybe 10 episodes, like, it was cool. You know, you getting your feet wet and everything. And my mom called me one day, and she said that I can tell when God's speaking and when He's not through you. And this is as a host.
Conviction.
Right. Boy. So now every time I pray, I'm like, hey, man, because, you know, I be feeling me in the moment, but I was like, no, you just supposed to shut up, because I would feel those moments. As soon as she said it, I felt it, because, like, I'd be talking and I'll, like, get to the end of whatever, but I still want to keep talking. Yeah. And then it really, especially with a guest, ain't nobody me no way.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, I want, before we got into the second, the second half, whatever. That's kind of how I got it in my nose, but whatever. You said that you're showcasing your pain to bring God glory. Now, what did you mean by that?
I've experienced a lot of hurts, and the hurts that I feel like I've experienced wanted to like take me out, and they were life-defining pains. Like, you know, of course, dealing with sexual abuse, but dealing with sexual abuse, it caused me to, you know, question my identity. It caused me to make bad decisions, and usually the decisions that I feel like I made, most people would be ashamed of, because for a certain point in my life, I was ashamed of it. So I didn't share with a lot of people. But it's kind of like revealing my pain to give other people's pain purpose. And if I felt like if I kept my pain in and the things that I went through, then I'm living a hidden life, sort of. So it's kind of like people will never get to know me, or people will not know the true depths of who I am. So I experienced a lot of hurts because I was trying to hide my pain. So talking about, you know, my molestation, the rape that I've experienced, the way that I was abuser, the lifestyle of, you know, homosexuality that I lived, just all those different things of not being ashamed of it, but I experienced pain and embarrassment in those moments, and just being able to just be vulnerable and just share that parts of my life with people in hopes that they can look at me now or look at the journey that I'm on and feel some type of, you know, hope to continue in their life and break free from it.
So if you don't already know, you got to find out and go on the website, because I ain't going to tell you. We'll dive into a little bit, but we always pushing it back to the grams and stuff. But no, I know that you just talked about a transitional period to where you went from being the abusee to the abuser. Now, like, where was the pivot point in that?
To becoming an abuser or coming out
after you ran out the house, I guess? Or
no, it was before.
Okay.
I think that, so for me, I was manipulated and controlled to kind of get what, you know, my stepfather wanted, I would say. And for me, in trying to find my identity, I was it's kind of trying not to go into the long story of it, but I became the image, I feel like, of what I despise. So, you know, I transitioned to where I was afraid of men. I was afraid to be in heterosexual relationships. Right. I gravitated towards women.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So,
I mean,
yeah. So I gravitated towards women, but it wasn't intentional. It was like an accident. Like, how do you become accidentally gay? But I had curiosities about women, you know, because it felt safe. It felt safer. And I ended up not having any clothes to wear, and I ended up wearing my brother's clothes. And when I wore his clothes, one, I was bullied before then. I was pretty, but I didn't have the clothes. I didn't have the hair done. So, you know, you got the pretty girls with the cute hairs and the baby fat shirts and belts. I didn't have that. So I didn't have any clothes. I wore my brother clothes. And to go from being bullied to where I was the center of attention, it was like, I can get used to this. Yeah. And so, you know, that's kind of how it started. I started to dress like a guy, and the attention that I got.
The attraction to females.
Yeah. And so I remember I had a crush on a girl in high school. I even to this day remember her name. I'm not going to say it on here and give her any clout, but it was a girl I had a crush on in high school.
Yeah.
While I was dressed as a girl, I hadn't yet come to the realization, but while I was trying to, figure out my sexuality, I had an attraction to this girl, and she was the only girl I think in school that was like openly gay. And I remember I was dressed like a boy this next day because I was trying to figure out if I wanted to dress like a boy or not. I was trying to kind of like judge the reaction I got from people at school. And I remember being at the water fountain. I was getting some water. She came up to me and I was like starstruck. Like I didn't know what to say. I was so nervous. And she was like, "You gay?" And I was like, Nah, I ain't gay.
You sure?
Yeah. And so when I said that, she walks off. And I sat there so mad at myself, like, oh my God, why did you say no? Like, that was your shot. And so that's a funny story, but that's literally how it started. But when I actually got more into the lifestyle and became comfortable with that journey, I started to realize the attention I was getting. It started to like feed that insecure part of me that felt rejected, that felt alone, that felt, abandoned. And when I'm
Probably
getting out,
felt a little bit more safe.
Yeah, it felt really safe. It was comfortable.
Yeah.
I didn't have that fear of, one, I was in control. I finally was in a relationship and in a position, even intimately, that I was in control. I was the dominant one. And so coming from being dominated, that was the life for me. And so it was like, that was my journey. And I started to kind of like it too much to where it was like, I would be intimate with girls, try to get them to fall in love with me, and then move to the next. Yeah. And I was hurting people, and it may not seem like an abuser, but to me it was an abuser because it's an emotional abuser.
Oh man, I got stories.
There was times to where I got bad reactions from the females, or maybe even fights. I got into fights at work because of it. It was just in my teenagers, like I'm working at Six Flags and I'm fighting in the locker room about a female, and it was just
gotta be the worst place ever to work, right?
Right. Oh my God.
I feel like theme parks have to be terrible for children.
That was my first job, and I got paid like $3.85 an hour when I first started there.
I get it.
I literally just pushed the button and did like this, like literally.
You could do. I always think about what if this ride just break? That little
that was it. It was
for me.
thumbs up, push a button. But
okay, I'm on lunch break.
But that was it. That was my.
So do you think that when people say they were born gay, do you think that's a possibility? Because obviously there's a Christian spiritual answer to it, whatever. And getting all the
my personal opinion,
politics or whatever.
This is what I say. Yeah. I cannot speak to what other people's perception of what they came into. So I don't ever say like people, yes, you can be born gay. Yes, you can't. I believe that you are born with your desires and or they're influenced somewhere along the line, no matter what that is. But I feel like I can only speak for me personally. I don't think I was born gay. I do believe I was born into a bad circumstance and situation that influenced it. So even if I would have tried it when I got older, even if it was something I would have experimented with, it was more pushed on me because of my fear. Yeah. And so I really don't like to, I don't even like terms.
I know it's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah, I don't even like labels. Like I it's weird because when people used to be like, "Oh, you a stud," I used to be like, "Don't call me that." Like I'm not a stud. I hated the verb. I hate the verb.
Why? No, that's a great question. Yeah. Why?
Why do people call you that?
No. Why? I mean,
why don't I like the label?
Yeah. No. Nobody that's been gay has ever like stud, femme, whatever.
Because I feel like when you in a relationship, like I don't come up to you and be like, "Oh, you the boy in the relationship," or you the girl.
But you gotta know how society is. Like if people
I'm
call
a
me a highlighter, light skin, you can see my veins, whatever, right? It's a dynamic for every stereotype, whatever in the world. So you have to know. But I feel like
if straight people don't have labels, this is my personal feelings about it. Why should?
Yes, they do.
Why should? No, there's not. There's not like. Are you a?
You got the insecure man. The guy that I always say.
See, that's a personality that has nothing to do with who you are as a person. When you look at a female who's in a straight relationship, you don't say, "Are you the soft femme?"
Well, that's the person that y'all both gay, but that's the personality that you choose to take. You choose to be.
Tell me, am I masculine? You can ask me, am I a masculine female?
It's the same thing.
No,
it's just
not.
the name.
It's not.
I get it. You cannot like the word because of what
butch
society
and stud. Yeah. Like that's. I feel like it's offensive to me. Most people don't feel that way. I feel like it's offensive to me
because
say
masculine, female.
I look at myself as a female, right? So if I'm a female, I'm just a female who finds it comfortable to wear guy clothing. And that's just how I felt. And so when people label me, I felt like you don't know me to label me. Yeah. Don't tell me what I am or list my title. I'm whatever I choose to be. And so I never liked that title. I never liked to be categorized as like, oh, you a stud. Because at any moment I could say, hey, let me put on some girl clothes and I could still be intimate with a female.
And that's always the dynamic.
Right. So then it's like, oh, now you a femme. Or I remember, this is a crazy story. I remember I was 18 and I decided I was getting ready to graduate high school. And I decided for the sake of my family to wear a dress to my graduation. I had a friend of mine who was a masculine female who literally cursed me out and cut me off because she said she feels like I'm representing studs wrong and that I should be ashamed of myself.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's stupid. That's so dumb to me.
So that's why, like, I feel like anybody of the LGBT whatever community can't get mad at anybody for using the wrong pronoun statement, what title, right? Because it's so much.
I feel like you put him in. I feel like you put me in a box. Don't put me in a box.
It's so much wiggle room.
I can do what I want to do.
You're right. So it's, I don't know. It's a
stupid situation.
But no, so that's all I'm finna say. I lost my thought. So they saying like, hey, we decided to do this. It's a stud community, whatever you want, masculine, female community, whatever, right? But there's a certain look, there's a certain box that we operate in, and so when you come outside that box, now it's like, bro, what you doing? Because you
I feel like that's honestly just to
I'm not on either side.
Now I got you saying, just to wrap. That sounds like a form of religion to me, and I just don't believe in that.
It's religion like aside,
right? So I'm saying like it's a form of religion, not Christianity or anything like that, but it's making it seem like. See, this is going. So it makes it seem like to me that it makes it seem like to me that that's a form of religion that I have to abide to, and there's a set of rules. I feel like I was a female who decided to dress like a male, partly because it was all I had at the time, but then it also allowed me to hide my body.
Okay.
And I happened to be attracted to females, and I became intimate with females, and then I chose to not be. So for me, I don't have a set of rules that I abided by, or I had a gay handbook that said, okay, this is your title. This is what you're going to go by. Like I wore a label.
So you didn't know about what society thought about?
No, at the time I didn't. It was just, I felt like I was more comfortable. And so that was where it started for me. And then, because at the time when I came out, being gay was like, you was literally stoned in school.
Right.
Like I was made fun of when I first started dressing like a guy. And so it was like, it wasn't something that people had identified, but as people started to make these labels, it just became, I was out of that culture. Like I wasn't nowhere in there, but yeah, that's kind of how it started for me.
So what was the transition and you getting out of that? When you realizing, okay, obviously God, I mean, hopefully, maybe, I don't know. You tell me. But where was the transition to where like, okay, I'm growing up, I've been living this life, and I think I read somewhere, and maybe you told me another time, you was like, I was tired of being a certain type of way. You started to see, I guess you're kind of forced to see your demons up close, and you hurting many people and things like that. So where was the transition and changing over to ultimately get to where you are now?
So my transition from being homosexual to heterosexual was a horrible process. Okay. It was not just like I woke up one day and was like,
I mean.
No, I get what I'm not saying you said, but it wasn't just like I woke up one day and I was like, I don't want to be gay anymore. I honestly, and I'm just being honest, I initially decided I didn't want to live that lifestyle anymore because I was told that I was on my way to hell. Like,
really?
Yeah.
You think that would make you continue?
That I was on my way to hell?
Yeah. Everybody I've ever talked to, I had a lot of friends back home, and all my barbers have been gay. All of them. All female barbers.
You think that somebody telling them go to hell make me want to keep going?
Yes, because it's like you can't. It's like a condemnation.
Well, see, so
you automatically, man, forget y'all. You can't condemn me to hell. You ain't God. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. That's proven.
So it wasn't like somebody just came up and was like, "You going to hell?" So and I was like, "Oh shoot, well let me not do this," because I was told that my whole life. My mother used to put freaking Bible passages on my bed, and it made me. I get what you said. It made me rebel against it. But at this point in my life, I was at my lowest point. I was very insecure about who I was and what I wanted. I was in a relationship with a woman that was very abusive, emotionally, physically. It was just, I had got to the point to where I was deeply in love with this person, but our relationship was just like, it was toxic. Like, I'm talking about jumping out on the highway and me trying not to get her to jump out the car and kill herself, and her physically assaulting me and telling me she'll kill me if I leave. Like, it was like literally, it got to like one of the worst points. And I ended up running into Matt. And when I ran into Matt, we ended up staying in the same apartment building. Her husband, by the way. We ended up living in the same apartment building. Yeah. And he invited me to church. I didn't know I was going to church. I was invited to go play basketball, and the basketball court happened to be at a church. Okay. And after basketball,
they gave y'all a little sermon.
Yeah, it was like a little Bible study afterwards. And so I was sitting there just looking like,
what is next?
They ain't even have snacks.
See, that's why I feel like churches are failing.
Yeah, it didn't have any snacks. We don't stay on topic,
but like, you gotta give people something.
The basketball got me, because I hadn't played basketball in a minute, so going up there and seeing a bunch of people my age, playing basketball, even females, like, I was intrigued by that. So I went there, we played basketball, but then afterwards, the pastor was like, "Hey, can I want to talk to you, don't leave." I was like, "Oh my God, this is a whole setup." Yeah. I was like, "Here we go." But I was like, you know what? I'll be open to the process, because the word was good. So it wasn't like I hated God. Now, I didn't really believe in God, but it was like, okay, the word kind of hit me. Like, it hit that little bitty seed of faith I had. The mustard seed. Like, the mustard seed of belief I had. And so I just remember going upstairs, and we was talking, and he just started telling me about my story. And I feel like...
I'm not even trying to... Now, was he judgmental?
No, initially, no, it wasn't.
I feel like people need to hear that too.
No, he wasn't judgmental.
When people try to pull you to the side, and I get it, you are automatically going to be defensive. But I think that's where a lot of people have a misconstrued, and whatever type of life that you're living. Yeah. Bad, whatever, women, men, who don't matter. Everybody got some little vice, little skeleton in the closet. Yeah. But don't get mad when somebody correctly tries to speak life into your situation.
No, he did. He wasn't judgmental. He came definitely in love, and it was like an embracement. He gave me a hug. He told me I was beautiful. Nice. Which is a little weird to me. But he told me I was beautiful. We sat down. Matt was in there with me, so it helped me be a little bit more comfortable.
You think Matt set you up?
I still to this day think he set me up. I'm not gonna lie, but I say, looking back, like, God was setting me up. So I'm not gonna give Matt that much credit, like he got skills, but
he's operating his
right.
His wife.
So when we was sitting there, he just started telling me about my life, and it wasn't like, of course, you could look at me and see that I was gay, but it was more of like the stuff that I had been through about the trauma and the abuse, and he got me crying, like it made me emotional, and what he was saying to me, I was like, you know what? He started telling me about God and how, God loved me for, who I was and all this other stuff. So he never came to me with judgment. Right. But that interaction I had with him, it wasn't like that day I was like, okay, I'm giving my life. It was like I wanted to go back and play basketball. And I continued to go to Bible study up there, because it was a bunch of kids my age and they was traveling. He invited me to play for like their basketball team. And I think we were getting ready to go to Florida. And I was like, oh yeah, I like this. It gave me something to do versus sitting in the house smoking all day. So I went. And I was in a relationship with the girl at the time, and it was like she became more of the devil the more I started to like be around God.
You gotta pick a side.
Yeah, and so it was like one day I just decided that, I'm gonna end this relationship, and she threatened to kill me. And I even say, looking back now, I regret how I left, because I'm not the type of person that likes to hurt anybody. But I feel like I probably hurt her in the worst way possible, because I just ghosted her. Like, we was in this committed relationship, living together.
Listen, it's 2 girls I could think of right now that had to be ghosted, because there's no way I could have done it.
See, my ghosting, it didn't work out for my good in the beginning.
Because I know myself. I was like, I just got to just throw the whole phone away.
So I ghosted her.
Start over in New York City. So.
I ghosted her initially. I broke up with her. Yeah. And I don't know if she thought this was like a normal breakup. She ain't take no for an answer. I'm talking about, you remember the phones they used to show you the number of times somebody called? Ooh. I woke up to like 98 missed calls. Like, no joke, from this person. I ended up getting my own apartment. Yeah. Didn't tell her where I lived at. And it was hard. Like, I was scared to go outside to run into her. Wow. Like, I used to be in my house, locked in the doors, because I was afraid to run into her. And it was funny because I'm going to tell you the bad part about the transition first. It wasn't the pastor that put me into fear. It was the members who made me feel like the pastor wasn't going to accept me, or God wasn't going to accept me because of my image. And I remember we were getting ready to go to Florida for the basketball trip the pastor invited me on. Yeah. And at the time I had a fade. Okay. I had a fade, and they was like, we got to go get you some clothes because he's not going to let you go if you go dressed like that. And I was like, why not? And they was
the same guy that talked to you?
Mm-hmm, the pastor. Okay. But the members were telling me this. It was a group of girls that was the members that were telling me, like, you're not going to be able to go dressed like that. So they took me to the store. They made me buy these girl clothes. And like I said, I just wanted to be accepted. Yeah. I just wanted to be in a place where I felt like I belonged. I finally have felt like I found some sort of a family. So I put these clothes on, and then immediately I was uncomfortable. Like when I tell you it felt like snakes was like crawling up my back. Wow. I was immediately uncomfortable, but I wanted to go. So I brought the clothes, I wore them, and it was the worst experience ever. And so I had decided to change, and I was like, you know what, if this is what I have to do to, be accepted by God, then I'm going to do it. But I honestly felt like I further traumatized myself by trying to do it religion's way instead of God's way.
Yeah, the clothes ain't nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah. And so that was my perception in the beginning. So I'm forcing myself to try to live this lifestyle in order to be accepted, because I just wanted I was fighting for that since I was a kid, to feel loved and accepted and to feel like I belonged in a place. And so I did that. And going back to the relationship with the girl, I remember when I first started doing it, I started getting this attention from guys like, oh, you beautiful, blah, blah, blah. You should think about modeling. So as I'm trying to find my way in God, I started modeling. Me and Matt started doing it together. I remember
so it still was no attraction there?
No. He was attracted to me, but no.
How early you think? Like
how early was he attracted? Yeah. The first time he saw me? Yes, it was weird. I told him he was gay when when he first told me. I was like, bro, you gay. And so I'm telling you, that's a whole funny story. I'm gonna tell you the whole story anyway, so I don't know how much time you got.
I mean, but we're still doing pretty good.
So like, I remember we took a picture to try to start modeling, and it was MySpace. We had a MySpace at the time.
Oh snap!
So I put it on my MySpace page. And I remember going home, and Matthew walked in before me, and he knew who my ex-girlfriend was at the time. So he texts my phone, and he's like, yo, don't come into the building because such and such is in here. I hadn't seen this girl in months. Mind you, I ghosted her. Yeah. So I was like, man, you got me messed up. I ain't about to hide from nobody. Right. And she's just going to have to deal with it. So apparently she thought from the picture that we posted that me and Matthew was in a relationship. And so I walk in the building, and she looks at me. And I literally felt like I was looking at Satan himself, because her eyes was like, and she literally get up from the seat and chases me out the building. And I turn and I run. But after a minute, I start getting tired. And I was like, what am I running for? So I stop and I turn around. As soon as I turn around, it was like, boom. Yeah. And we in the backyard fighting.
That's how Matt fell in love. Put your hands. Man.
He didn't even see the fight.
But he heard about it.
He didn't even see the fight. So, yeah, we fought. And I went upstairs to my apartment, and somehow she found out what apartment I lived in, and it was a death threat that said, if you don't call me at this number by this time, I'm going to kill you and him, and I'm going to throw y'all bodies in Ohio River. No joke.
Never going to Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm good.
No joke. And so it was just like, so that was the process for me. But I remember it took a while for me to like start to like Matthew, but I feel like I was trying to force it and rush it because I felt like it would help the transition be easier if I had somebody else to be in love with. So I tried to force myself into this relationship with him when I knew he liked me. He kept asking me, mind you. I kept saying no. And I remember one day leaving Bible study, I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And the worst thing he could have ever done was try to hold my hand. And he reached out and he held my hand, and we was walking. And I was so uncomfortable. We get back to my apartment. He's like, I'm about to go get us something to eat. He leave and come back. And I broke up with him. Like right there with the food. So, yeah, it was just, but I feel like that that traumatized me. Doing that traumatized me.
Great point. You don't know what I'm talking about, but great point. So in that transition, in learning, because it's not, like you said, overnight. It's time. It's coming back. It's doing the steps. So to get him to understand, so at this point you feel like you're broken, right? You feel like, how can anybody love me if I reach this point? I'm still trying to figure myself out. So how do you get to the point to where you're whole enough? What does it take? Because I think 97% of the people out there feel broken or have felt broken, especially in a relationship when you really have to give, like, a lot of yourself. how did you get to that point to where, hey, I'm whole, I'm ready to pursue this, to get married, to have children, like, you know, I know we skipped over a lot of stuff, but like, how did you get to that?
I can tell you my process, but my process doesn't symbolize what you just said. My process, even getting married, was all based on fear. It was all based on fear.
Really?
Yes. He knows this, and we moved past it. But the day I got married, if Uber and Lyft was available, I would have been up out of there. And I'm just being honest.
That says a lot about him, though.
Yeah.
That says a lot about
like,
him.
I would have been out of there, and he knows this. But I got married. So the first time me and Matt decided to be intimate, we wasn't married. And it was a traumatizing experience for me. Like, I ended up crying. He ended up leaving. It was horrible. And I ended up pregnant. And when I ended up pregnant, I went for counseling.
First time?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Who you telling? Who you telling? It was, but the experience was traumatizing. I don't know your audience level, but I want to share this. I had only associated sex with men it had to be aggressive. Okay. In some way, shape, or form, I had to be forced. And it's a sick way to look at it. But
no, I've had pillow talk after sex. I have had girls, a girl I had just met. Maybe a week later we smashed, right? And so she told me like the whole, very similar, not exactly the same, but the whole thing. I'm just like, I was stuck in my own house. Yeah. Cause in that moment, she gave me like everything. She was like, I just felt so comfortable with you, and she gave me the whole thing. But she told me that, and it was weird. She was telling me to do all this type of stuff to her. Yeah,
but that was the only way.
Cool, right? But I'm just like, this don't feel natural.
But that was the only way that I can be intimate. Yeah, was to be forced, because throughout my childhood, I would have to I would play sleep, and that was the only way that he would get what he wanted. And so for Matthew, I kind of not told him that, but kind of told him that. And so, he thinking it's a game. He holding me down and stuff, and I'm telling him to stop. And in his mind, he was doing what I wanted, and it was like part of the game. But then when he looked at my face, he saw that I was crying.
And he didn't know that much of your past.
Yeah, he knew some of it, but he didn't know that's what was happening, that I was really serious this time about him stopping, because I started to care about him and I wanted it to be different. But it was just horrible for both of us. So you have a miscommunication sexually, and then he looks at me and see that I was crying, and he didn't know how to deal with it, and so he ran. And I'm sitting there stuck with crying.
Like physically, right? Yeah. Good God bless him.
Yeah, he literally.
That's one of the best stories my dad ever told me. Listen, because he won't win. Yeah. You won't win that fight. You going to jail instantly.
Yeah, he didn't run, but he didn't run out of fear going to jail. He told me later that he ran because he cared about me so much that he thought he had really hurt me.
I don't believe it. That's part of it. He was ready to go to jail. I guarantee it.
But it wasn't like a rape.
Do that, it don't matter, because guys go to jail for rape for less.
Yeah. So you saying
for less? I could touch you on your shoulder right now. He touched me, and I felt, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I think.
I'm just saying
it could have been, but I'm just saying he felt like we both were confused in that moment. Because Matt was the first person to where I ever wanted to be like sexually intimate with when it came to a man.
The reason because of that is I was gonna say props to him. He has, I think that's why we're friends, because he has an enormous amount of patience that I would never.
Boy, who you telling? I say the same thing every day of him, but listen, trust me, I got a lot of patience with this man too. So let's just, we both, God is definitely.
Y'all married my business. I'm just saying, when I talk to him and then I start learning about your story, I'm just like, yo, I get it. Yeah. And so that just proves that no matter how broken you think you are, God is really cultivating that person for you. Yeah. Because we hear it all the time, like my Boaz, my Rachel, whatever. And it's like, no, like everything that you've been through does not make you broken. God is legitimately, he made somebody who was able to have a threshold to hold all your stuff. And ultimately, y'all both give it to God.
And I think that our relationship could have been better had we allowed things to organically develop. But you got Matt, who's been in the church and who desires a wife because he want to do things the right way. Right. Then you got me, who God is trying to, because one thing that you said it earlier was that people made me think that in order for me to be saved, in order for me to be living for God, I had to stop being gay. As if gay was the answer to my salvation. Yeah. And here I am trying to change my outward appearance, change what I'm attracted to. And when I find myself lusting after women, it's like, oh my God, the devil's in me. I need deliverance. And that was the perception that I had. Yeah. And so here I am, not only battling with, well, God, you made me this way, and I'm hating God because I'm like, well, I can't stop my thoughts. I can't, like, whenever I felt uncomfortable with Matt, and people ask me this now, like, do you miss being gay? It was never the gay that I missed. I missed the comfort zone and the feelings that being gay gave me. Like, I never was afraid when I was, in that lifestyle. I never had a fear associated with intimacy. Like, people.
So do you miss the comfort of what you
I missed the gratification that it gave me. Yeah, like I missed the gratification of my past more than it was like, oh yeah, I missed dressing like this and going after women. No, I missed the safe zone.
For females left.
No. Okay. I never had stopped being attracted to, even in the beginning of my marriage. It was so like when when me and Matt when me and Matt would be intimate, because you asked this question, you said, how did I get to the place of healing? Mm-hmm. Because of the trauma that me and Matt first experienced in the beginning of us even getting to the point of marriage, I was afraid of my husband still sexually. It was still a fear there because now I had associated my husband with trauma. It was hard to break that association. So now
he was just grouped together.
So now he's in that category, but I love this person and I'm married to him. And I feel like the healing for me began because it's not an overnight process. When I was willing to first find the why I was uncomfortable, because when I would be, say, intimate with my husband and I had a fear associated with it, in my mind, I'm automatically thinking about my safe zone, being with a woman. It was like a constant torment for me.
Default setting.
But I had never knew that it was because of my fear. I just automatically assumed that it was just because that's the way I am. That's the way I'm supposed to be. And this is just for me. That's where I'm supposed to be at. But then when I was as I was on my healing journey, of trying to figure out the why of what God had for me and really learn God the right way and not the religious way. Yeah. But God, knowing that God wasn't trying to stop me from being gay, God was trying to heal me. God was trying to he understood why I was where I was. He understood why I was attracted to women. He understood why I gravitated that way. Yeah. But the church will never tell you that. They only told me that
trying to fix the problem.
Leviticus, you going to hell and you got to stop being gay. And I thought that when I stopped being gay, that God was going to open this magical window in heaven of rainbows and drop down this beautiful story. Yeah, but what God was trying to do was organically develop my faith in him and show me and expose my trauma and show me the proper way to deal with it. And if I would have chosen to stop being gay, then that was the decision I made. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like, oh yeah, you got to stop being gay. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to stop being gay, and people made it seem like it was this pill. Like, okay, I've been taking gay pills. Yeah. Now all of a sudden I got these heterosexual pills. Yeah. So let me start taking these and it's going to fix it. And one day I was able to, say, God, I had this eye open. I was just praying to God, like, can you reveal to me why I can't look at sex with my husband as something beautiful if you consider it worship? Like, why is this not beautiful to me? Why is it taunting? Why is it gruesome? Like, why is it something that I can't? And I use those words to say it was that uncomfortable for me. Yeah. I was like, my husband would come and kiss me and I'm afraid because is he gonna try to have sex? And he should. He's my husband. He should be able to. Or he might come up and grab me and just hug on me and kiss me. But for me, it was perverted. And so I just prayed about, like, God, why? And when I was able to understand that, the trauma that I experienced in the beginning of my relationship with Matt was why I was afraid, I had to look that fear in the mirror, because being in a lifestyle allowed me to hide my real pain. It allowed me to hide my fears. I didn't date women and tell them, like, yeah, I'm at home getting, abused by my stepfather. I never told any of the women that I dated that except my ex. It was never a conversation. So I was able to live a separate lifestyle. And so when I actually had to confront my fear and say, okay, it's not that my husband is perverted or that my husband is an abuser. It's just I've associated him, and I had to come to that realization, and I had to break, that thought. But I had to see God for healing to be able to confront my trauma.
I mean, people just got it backwards. I mean, I grew up in that judgment, and I've seen that judgment, and I've addressed older. I mean, I used to be a drummer for a bunch of different churches, and I've called people out. I mean, the head deacon or whatever they had, I'm like, bro, that's wrong. Yeah. We never talk about me because they used to get mad at me because I never wanted to wear a suit playing the drums. Like, that's stupid. Yeah. Wearing a suit playing the drums
I was told I had to serve in the church. I had to wear a skirt.
So like that was like, you know, this whole thing. Anybody listening has ever been to a Baptist, Methodist, whatever. What's the Presbyterian?
I don't even.
Presbyterian. All them ones, right? They know that the judgment is there, so I ain't got to go through that. But you know, it's calling it. It's being like up front, and that's why I say it's a different type of people, because I would be the one to say something like, yo, that's wrong. Show me in the Bible where judging somebody else is wrong. I mean, it's right. Show me in the Bible where ridiculing and saying people can't serve and saying, you know what I'm saying, like it's a fine line for sure, because when you start leading others, I get that, but it's like they should be a part and be able to grow and to you not tell them how to dress, but let God transform them into something different. And you can still come in there with a full suit, and I'm gonna say, still be heterosexual, whatever. Let God transform and still dress a certain type of way.
And I'm gonna say this not conflicting. I'm gonna say this confrontational statement: being gay does not guarantee you a seat in hell. So the church wants you to believe that, like,
who are we to say right it is or not?
But people want to force that agenda of, you know, condemning people, and you never. I feel like this: if you want to help somebody, don't teach them about their sin. Don't tell them what parts of their sin are against God. Tell them about God's love. Allow them to experience God's love through you. And so I have a sister. That's married to a woman. You think I'm getting ready to sit here every day and tell her, like, you know, you're on your way to hell? No, I tell her how much God loves her. Yeah. And I help her understand who God is. And whatever journey God takes her on once she learns about his love, that's up between her and God. It's not my place to try to get her to transform and try to give her some religious principles about how her homosexuality is condemning her to hell. I tell her, if you want to be assured of heaven, make sure you believe in God and you accept him as your Lord and Savior.
Legit.
And that's it.
And that's I'm gonna tell you, that's probably the only absolute that we have, because we all know, you know. And I still gotta put this on my website. But I'm gonna have a section on there to where the people can watch the video, read the thing, the whole thing. My mama got me set up with it, that they can legit be saved, like, through a video. Yeah. All it is, you know what I'm saying?
That's it. You accept Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior.
He died on the cross for your sins. You believe it. He rose
I just say this for people who think that
Jesus,
they think that you can go to hell for being gay. That means Jesus died for nothing, because when he died, he paid the price for all of our sins, not the specific ones.
We're not even in a position to say.
Yeah. It's not our place. It's not our place.
That's level of understanding. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's a level of understanding. Excuse me. That we're not even supposed to have. Yeah. Because when you say God. Yeah. Big G. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Capital. Yeah.
When you say God, like, when you believe in anything, if I believed in, you know, this I don't know, this ring, and I'm praising this ring, I'm praying to this ring, I'm tithing to the ring, whatever. I'm saying that this ring can do something beyond my wildest imagination. Yeah. That this ring can provide me with something that I can, or nobody on this earth can, you know, provide for me. Yeah. That's what you're saying when you believe in God. Yeah. You know, you're saying that it's stuff I'm okay with not understanding. Mm-hmm. I need to know, for me, for my life, obviously prayer, faith. Because you look at any religion, it's faith involved. Yep. It's a believing. It's a homage to, rather. And so all of them, no matter what you believe in, the people that believe in rocks, trees, the people that make their own God in the Bible, they pray to it. They make up their own rules. I'm going to pray at 6 o'clock and I'm going to do this, right? So all that to say, you have to understand, when you decide to believe in God, it's a love thing. Like, let God transform you. When
let God transform people.
It's not your job to judge. It's not your job to change that person. Mm-hmm. Your husband, your wife, your best friend. If anything, let them see it on you.
Yeah, and I have my sister. I have a sister's getting ready to come and stay with me. And she lives that lifestyle. One thing she said was like, you know, I'm just at a lost place in my life, and I really, you know, want help just figuring out who I am, and maybe you can help me change my life. And I said, listen, I'm going to be a reflection of God and show you his love, and I love you, and I'm going to love on you. And whatever you choose and God leads you to do with that, that's between you and God. It's not my place to change her. It's not my place to hit her upside the head with the Bible, but I have to be prepared when she comes to give her truth, if she asks for it. And I go with her steps and her flow, because I feel like I know that the moment in my life, I say that I've known about God since 2008. That's when I got baptized. That's when I prayed the Lord's Prayer. But I feel like that's when I accepted religion. I didn't get saved and truly give my life to God until I discovered his love and who God truly was. And that was in my bedroom, in my darkest place in 2019. And so I believe at that point is when I got to learn who God is. And at that moment, he taught me about his love. He taught me about who he was. He taught me about his oracles. He taught me about it. I didn't mean to say oracles, but he taught me about who he was as a person and what his love meant and how to exemplify his love. And the biggest voice that we can have in the community of believers is us living an example, and not a perfect example. But even when I make a mistake, I'm humble enough to admit it. And I'm able to say, you know what, God convicted me, and this was my process of change, and that's where it goes. So when I kept having these tormented thoughts, because I had them throughout my marriage of, you know, wanting to sleep with a woman and be afraid. And whenever it was like it came in between my marriage, I went to my husband and I told him, you know, I'm having these thoughts and I don't know why. But I thought it was because I was struggling with my identity still. I allowed the enemy to make me believe it was because I was trying to live a life I wasn't created for. But what I learned, like I said, is I had never dealt with my trauma. I had never dealt with it in a way to where I really faced it. And I believe my facing it was me talking about it. That was me speaking out about it, me looking at my trauma and what it caused me and being able to like pinpoint like, okay, this is what this is doing. And for me to put in something to change it. So I can sit here and say like, you know, cause trauma is far deep. I've been through so much trauma. It's far past being gay, far past being, you know, molested. It's a daily journey. Yeah. And we have to realize when we need help, there's no point of drowning in a sea full of lifeguards. I believe that God puts people in our lives to help us through every stage. And so for me, I just had to realize that I need therapy. Yeah. There's still certain things that I haven't been able to figure out. There's certain things that I haven't been able to navigate through. And I have to be humble enough to say that I need it. Just because you need therapy doesn't mean that God still can't use you. It doesn't mean that you still can't. There's people in pulpits and there's people on highest stages who don't admit to needing therapy and they end up committing suicide, you know, and that's deepest sympathies, but that's what happens. You end up in your worst state mentally when you won't admit that you just need help. Yeah. And if you're somebody that need help, you have to be willing to admit that. You have to be willing to come to terms with that. And I had to realize with my husband, like, I need therapy. I never trusted therapists. I've been trying to go into therapy since I was in group homes and I never trusted them. But I know what it is that I need now. And even on this journey, I don't care if God puts me in a multi-million-dollar mansion and I'm on TV known by the whole world. I'm going to receive help if I need it. If I need to be in counseling and therapy for the rest of my life, I'll be there. But at the end of the day, I understand who God is. I understand his love, and I understand how I'm supposed to show that to, you know, other people. And I am at a place in my life to where I'm vulnerable to my story. I'm vulnerable to the people who I come in contact with, and I'm transparent. I believe that my story isn't mine. Nothing that I've went through or nothing that I've thought about or done was mine, but God strategically placed that in me for a purpose. And God doesn't like vision. He likes vessels. He likes people who are willing to say, you know what you've done in my life is for me to share with somebody else. It's for me to save and help somebody else. So I feel like it's selfish if you hold your story to yourself. And I'm not saying that you got to get on social media and make a million posts. It started with me being able to share my story with friends. There was things that I never told people. There was things that I never shared with some of the people who I consider my BFF. Yeah. And some people couldn't handle my story and some people used my story against me, but I was happy I did that because it exposed their true intentions. But then there was people who was able to embrace my story and embrace me and understand me in every, you know, detail about who I am as a person. And God put people in my life now that are like, it's like that building, that protection that I have with the circle that I have. Like it's a real solid circle of people, and some people have fallen out of that circle who I cared about and who I love, but like that has been my journey, and healing is there for everybody, but you have to be willing to expose those secrets, because I believe that some people don't want to do it because they want to protect somebody else, but you have to care about your healing more than you care about someone else's image.
You know, I had an episode called Rip the Band-Aid Off, and she's actually a therapist, but you can't really ultimately grow and help somebody else until yours is on Front Street. Cause I always say, it's probably almost every episode. Well, not every episode. Anyway, not be rambling.
You good?
But I don't want really like a preacher or like a spiritual whoever mentor to not have no dirt. Honestly, for me, I can't respect you. I done too much for you to be out here. Oh yeah, I've done this and I've been to Israel. And
I say
good
testimony. I say I want
no,
somebody
I
who's willing
want
to show
them.
their
I
testimony.
want the dirt. I want all the stuff that you've done to prove to me, for me, that okay, now we can talk. Because just like therapists, because I need my therapist. My therapist, she about 5'2" white lady, got this little rainbow. She wears this rainbow Apple Watch all the time, just happy, go to church, everything, right? But she told me some of the stuff she did, and that was like the best day ever.
Yeah, because you got somebody who's willing to be transparent and vulnerable.
She got skin in the game with me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's how we're able to talk. That's why some people don't like going to therapists, because they feel like it's just one-sided. And I'll even talk to that point, because even if you not like me, you don't need nobody's skin in the game, that therapist is there to help you guide you through your own thoughts. That was a
journey, though, because I've been in therapy or tried to be forced to go to therapy since I was a kid. And I think when I got married, I tried to go to therapy. One, I don't think I was really ready yet. But then two, I felt like most of the therapists that I went to, I was just another dollar for. Because you
went in with the bad
but I would talk, and then after, like, they'll be doing this, looking at their clock while I'm talking, and it was kind of, and so so I left, and I never went back, and I had this bad taste in my mouth for therapists. But I believe you just have to find the right person for you, and it may not be you sitting in somebody's office. It may be just starting with confiding in a friend. But I feel like God will lead you to the right person, and I'm hoping that this new counselor that I have, this new therapist that I have will be.
Don't give up.
Yeah, and so, but I know what I need now, and I feel like you have to go into therapy knowing what you need from therapy and not expecting them to tell you. And that comes from you looking within yourself.
They'll just stare at you.
And so that comes from you knowing what's in yourself, and you have to know your goals. You have to have a vision for therapy. So I know this time what it is that I want to accomplish in therapy, and I know how to communicate with my therapist to say, can you help me get to that place? Yeah, can you help me get to this place? And if she say no, thank you. That don't mean you're a bad therapist. It just mean you wasn't the one for me. And so when I went to therapy before, I didn't go with mission. I just went for somebody to dump my stuff on and for somebody to fix all my problems. But
I think that was a part of that, though.
Yeah, but fixing your problems start with you too.
You're supposed to fix your problems.
And so
guide you too.
And so I thought I was gonna go in this therapist with all my problems, tell her my story, and she was gonna just give me statement. And it wasn't. It was a journey for myself that I had to discover, and I had to come to a lot of self-realizations, and I had to be honest with myself. I had to be willing to say I got a problem and not think because I realize I have a problem that something's wrong with me. And so it comes to, you have to know clearly what it is that you want to accomplish, and you have to sit down because you know your story better than anybody else, and you can sit in the therapist's office and lie and hold back certain parts.
All that money and time.
Yep. But you got to come to realization with yourself. You have to be willing to, confess your problems to yourself, and then hopefully therapy will get you where you want to be, but you have to go in there with a goal.
And don't go in there with a chip on your shoulder either.
Yeah.
I say it ain't about you, but it really ain't about you, bro. It's about your children and the people that's surrounding you that have to deal with you. Yeah, you got issues internally as well, but like, how are you ever gonna have interpersonal relationships? I ultimately win because I don't want to pass my demons off to my son, especially my son.
Break them generational curses,
listen, and so it's just understanding.
I think that's where I am now, though. I know that's where I am now. Like, I'm at a place to where my life is not about me. What I do on a daily basis when it comes to even writing and when I want to give up, I have to remind myself it's not about me. The moment I make it about me is the moment that I think I'll walk away from it, because it's not clearly what I want to do, but it's what God has assigned for me to do, and I have life in it. But sometimes it don't gratify, certain parts of my flesh. It doesn't give me that, that sinful gratification feels like. And so I feel like you have to understand that we are all put here for God's purpose. Like, God has a purpose for all of us. We all have one, but not everyone is willing to just say, like, I feel like, if I can put it in like layman's terms, I feel like I've opened up my arms and I've allowed God to like literally take a shovel and just dig every part of me out, and then allow him to rebuild at his time and his pacing everything he wants there. And I live my life in a way to where, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I live my life in a way to where it's like, okay, God, what would you have me do in this situation? Like, what is it that you want from me? And I clearly see the vision, and I see the millions of people on the other side, and the impact that God is going to do through me. It's like it's going to be a thumbprint that's going to last for generations and generations.
That's good.
And that excites me. And I know I can't do that myself. I don't have that much power. I don't have that much thought. But the God who created everything chose me for that purpose. And one, I'm honored. Two, I'm humbled that he chose somebody like me who's so imperfect. But the fact that he loves me, but I have to keep going because it's not about me. You know, it's not about me. It's about, you know, my sons, my daughter, any other person that is still trapped. Like God, the purpose usually that God puts in you is not for you. He uses you to, you know, not use you in a bad term, but he utilizes you to bring it to pass. But there's always in every step of your journey somebody on the other side. So just like I could have been like, this book was what God was going to use to change people. Before this book even came out, I impacted so many people's lives just by my journey. And every day of my journey, just knocking on a neighbor's door and sharing my story, running to the guy at the airport. I don't know what I did for him when he went home, but you have to understand that every part of your journey has a purpose. Every person that God has you come in contact with is a purpose. And I'm not saying you got to give them a scripture, tell them your truth. You could just be sharing a coffee and tell them how you believed God for $5 to get a coffee. It don't even have to be about God. It could just be a conversation, something that triggers them to want to seek healing outside of God. And so if you look at the finish line and you don't see yourself getting there and you get frustrated and walk away, you're missing the intricate parts of your journey that God is also using to impact people.
I mean, if that wasn't the soundbite.
Yeah, that was dope, bro.
That was, I mean, yeah, that's it. I appreciate you.
And thank you for letting me come do part 2.
Insert applause.
That means you like part 1.
Yes. If y'all didn't hear the, y'all new to this podcast or new to Janitta at all, go back and listen to Crockpot and then go back and listen to this. It's kind of too late to tell y'all that now.
But I do want to say that my book is now on sale. And I just launched, I had a No More Secret shirt, the gold and black edition. I only did through pre-order, and people were upset that I didn't have them once it released. But
people don't be believing you when you say that. They just think
I
you're
was
going to
dead
change
serious.
it just because. No, dog.
So that black and gold is gone.
That's
but
it.
I do have my Nothing But the Blood edition. It's the red and black version of my No More Secret shirts. And No More Secrets is pretty much just trying to get people to walk out their truth and let them know that the secrets that they're keeping to protect someone else is only hurting their future generation. So just No More Secrets. It's a shirt, and it's nothing but the blood, because I feel like, you know, nothing but the blood is how we got here. So you can get the book and my shirt from my website. If you do buy the shirt, you get the book for 50% off. And if you buy one shirt, you get the second one 20% off. The codes are all going to be on my Instagram page. But I encourage everyone to go get it, because you won't understand part 2 and the next phase if you miss out on this first one. So even if you're not a reader, I intentionally made this book an easy read. I intentionally.
God told me. Are you gonna do audiobook?
Do I gotta say the audio? You mean like me? You like me saying? Nah, I hire somebody.
Just to think. I do it.
Peter didn't read his.
Well, does it have to be a girl?
I'm just saying Matthew, John. They ain't read their part of the Bible. They got like, you know, Denzel and all them people to do their stuff.
To read it.
I mean, I read it, but you know what's crazy?
Read his own book.
I hate to say this while I'm telling people to get my book, but I've read this book so many times that I it's kind of like now when I read it from like an analytical standpoint of like what I could have done better. And I've learned, like, when I tell you, God is he's a fast, on-time God. Like, God does something that can change in the snap of a finger.
Yes.
And I almost didn't launch this book. I'm talking about they were printed on their way in FedEx to my house, and I was about to stop the launch because of errors that I found. But the errors weren't like substantial. They were just things that it was like in me just messing with me. And I was like, well, I can't stop God's purpose because of my imperfection.
That's what I said in the beginning. Like my first couple episodes, audio wise, where I feel like it was trash.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of cultivated like this idea of like doing very little editing unless I just like fall in my seat or something, you know? I don't really edit much as far as in the middle of it, because it's me. It's the authentic me. It's authentic you.
Yeah.
So why would I edit that out? People make mistakes. People stutter. I might do
But
whatever,
I did good.
You know?
This book, I'm telling you, it's really good.
Fire. I can't wait to read
it. And there's people who finished it in 1 day and 2 days, but I made it an easy read on purpose. But there's so, like, when I tell you, it's like a 9-day difference for the things that I've learned and God has given me in knowledge, and I see why he did it the way he did. And one day I'll be at liberty to share that. But it was like, this is kind of like my college degree. in what God is getting ready to do. So this is like, you graduate from college and then you actually go into your
now
field.
you finna do it.
This was my degree, and this was part 1, and I cannot wait until you guys see part 2 of what God is doing in my life. Not part 2 of the book, but part 2 of what he has in the oven baking right now. And I can't wait, but I definitely encourage everyone, you can go to my Instagram and get it at I am Janitta Nichols, or go to my website Janitta Nichols to get it. But I encourage everyone, to read it.
My book now.
I'm gonna sign it for you. I got you. I ain't bringing a permanent marker, but you don't need one.
Don't be trying to find me to get this book either.
A cool pen.
Okay, it's gonna be worth.
I got literally, no joke. What? I have literally one signed copy left on my website for somebody to order. So hopefully, somebody don't get it before this podcast releases. But there's literally one signed copy. It's
coming out tomorrow.
Yeah. So really,
yeah, I'm quick.
You at that fast now?
I am. I'm that.
I can't wait. I'm gonna have to get a flyer put together.
The longest part of my we can make it later if you want to.
Nah.
Longest part of my process is the video uploading to YouTube. That's the longest part, because all this is in 4K.
Yeah.
And it takes forever.
Oh yeah. As soon as you get, I'm gonna put out a flyer just when it's available for when you think it's close. Just let me know. But I got you.
I love it though.
But thank you.
I mean, I needed this honestly, because it's been a minute. I think I took maybe a week and a half, because this one will come out like on the Thursday, and I release them every Sunday. But like this new thing for the year is like, it has to come when I need it to come. Of course, you wanted to be on the schedule. Yes, you're gonna be consistent, but like, and this not even scheduling, because every time I think I don't have anybody else, I mean like 6 people just magically appear, and so a lot of feelings somebody put out with like. People approach me about in different fields. It ain't even like I'm just getting like 100 authors. You my 3rd author. I like with 50-some episodes. That's crazy. Musicians, all types of people. And so like I was thinking about when you were talking, it's just like allowing God to use you, and it being like you really have to operate in what you feel like the people need to hear. And it's nothing about me. Yeah, it's nothing about what I want to pop or to do whatever. My highest episode listens, downloads, whatever you want to call them, have been the episodes I don't really like. I love them all, but it's like the ones I don't think are gonna be all hot. Yeah. But it's the ones that people need. Yeah, and so it's just really operating in the purpose that God got for you. Once you get to that point, and you just being dope. So
man, I could be sad right now and be like, oh man, I'm not a New York Times bestseller. And it's not about that. Yeah. The purpose was to get my story out there, and I feel like God, he never reveals why he does something in a moment. And even now, I know there's so much more to why he had me do it the way that he did. But I'm happy that I did it that way. Yeah. And I've been in, like my husband said, I don't do nothing. This is probably the first time I've been at the house in like a week and a half. And this weekend I have a 2-day getaway where I'm going away and to just, worship with God, just to before I can't say. I'm trying to say before I do a certain thing, I want God's clear advice. I want to hear him clearly. I want to know exactly what I'm supposed to do when I get there. And I feel like the most frustrating parts of my process have been when I have taken God out of it and I've got out of communication with God. Because when you get out of communication is when the fear comes, when the worry comes, when you start trying to do things yourself to bring about a certain result. And that's when the vision get cloudy. And so I believe that anytime if you feel that on your journey, you have to be willing to step back and say, okay, how's my communication with God? Like, am I in direct communication? And if I'm not, then you need to go back to that, because if you're, especially if you're on a purpose and you're fulfilling the mission that God gave you, you have to stay in constant communication. Yeah. Like there can't be, I go 3 and 4 days without praying and talking to God and I'm making decisions. No. Yeah. Because for sure. When I finished this book, I was frustrated, like, well, God, I finished what you told me to do, so now what? But I wasn't even talking to God. I wasn't praying. I wasn't doing nothing. I had stopped praying. I'm just getting frustrated with the process of just trying to get this book out there, just get it selling. And I got out of communication with God. And had I stayed in communication, I would have known what was next. But because I got out of communication, I couldn't see what was next. And now I'm panicking, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And the moment that I realized I was doing that, I told you, I went on like a 2-day fast away from everything, and I got back in communication. And when God told me, he was like, I was trying to tell you a long time ago, but you ain't want to come talk. So you playing. Yeah, so you just got to stay in communication. But like I said, every part is not about you. Even in your bad parts and your doubting parts, God's going to use that. Like somebody saw me doubting. Somebody saw me panicking. And when they saw my faith become ignited again, and when they saw that fire and they saw me keep going, that spoke to their lives. So don't think that God could just use the good. The God can use God wants to use, and he's going to use every single part of your journey and your story, because every part has an opportunity to touch somebody, and you don't have to understand. All you have to do is be obedient.
The second great soundbite.
I don't even know what that is. That sounds like
soundbite is what we put to promote the podcast with.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I got a lot of good reviews from you.
Soundbite it.
No, that's the
best. I got a title for you if you ain't already got one.
What's up? Yeah,
Pray the gay away.
Huh? That's if people always give me like crazy titles.
But
pray
when
the gay away.
But when you say that, people gonna be like, you can't pray the gay away. It's a very you might not use it, but it's very confrontational. Who won't? People gonna be interested. Like, what do you mean pray the gay away?
They're not. They're gonna be like, oh, he's that religious. I knew it's the Christian.
Well,
podcast.
Don't use my title then. But the gay
I was
pill.
so excited for you till you said it, man.
Dang.
No, I was just thinking like, what am I gonna name this? Because usually it comes out organically.
In my defense, God gave me the secrets of my mother, so I'm not that clever.
We could
with
call
titles.
it with the name of the book.
No, that's boring. I would, but see, you gotta have that clickbait. I mean, you don't need clickbait because it's a message from God, but
it's just an appeal. It's
it's just like
I felt like Crockpot was cool because then it's like it's ambiguous. Like, y'all,
it was cool.
What could it be about?
It was alright.
It's better than Pray the Gay Away.
Not really. It depends on who you asking.
Maybe it's the way you said it.
How should I say it? Pray the gay away.
No, because they can't hear you saying it, so they hear it. So they gonna see Pray the Gay Away. Just imagine Pray the Gay Away. You see it in your head. It's like if you saw it in the Barnes and Noble, you're not gonna buy that book. You're not even gonna look in the back of Pray the Gay Away. Oh, they already religious judgment, blah blah blah. You're not gonna.
It depends. I might be interested. Like, what is they talking about? Like, let me see this so I can write them some hate mail, and then I might read it and be like, oh, that ain't what they mean. It's like an oxymoron.
So like my first, fan mail gonna be hate mail.
I'm gonna write it for you. I'm gonna write the first hate mail letter because I got your address.
So now that we on here and we got I was trying to get something 145 we did last time, but we got time anyway. It's always a reminder to go to notactalk.com. Filler. Leave a 5-star rating. It helps the podcast.
I think I rated you already.
Well, appreciate that. So we leave 5-star rating for the podcast. It always helps. Comment, share, do all those things.
And if you get my book, you can go to Amazon.com, and even if you don't download the Kindle version, even if you don't download the Kindle version, you can still give me a rating and a review because it'll also help me rank and people see my book. But I'm gonna tell you the truth, I don't care about it ranking.
I do,
but I want people.
Helps the podcast a lot.
Well, your podcast, yeah, you need it for your podcast, but for me,
it's free, people.
Yeah, it takes you 5 seconds to click the star and just type something. But I'm saying like I do, people, you rating it. It helps me too to know what you think because you can also DM me and tell me something that you think about.
Tell you to do the great podcast, greats, and be teaching folks these classes. Oh no, don't. I'm not sounding thirsty. I'm just saying, hey, support the podcast. They want you to do it in this little fancy way.
But you're supposed to do that for podcasts. That's how you get seen.
I do, but I'm just saying. But I ain't finna be like, all right, and you just make it all pretty and put me. No, hey, bro, you know what podcast about. You know it's all about support. So if you rock what I'm putting out, the content, the people that I have on, leave a free 5-star rating, support your boy, and we're gonna come up to the top together. That's it. Get it while you still can, while you can still DM me. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, you feel me? Say that while your thing ain't going to the request box.
While you can still DM me.
While you can still DM me.
It's the title in there somewhere.
No. That has what?
That's the point.
That was horrible.
We're on the precipice of greatness here. We're on the precipice of greatness. Whether we take pride in it or not, it's like God got something great for us. We're going to be great.
We're going to pray on it.
Let's pray
and
on
hopefully
it.
you get it by Thursday.
I ain't going to put this out until we get a title.
All right, I'm gonna pray on it tonight and see what I can get. I got you.
Anyway,
God is dope. Say no, I'm just.
Nah, we ain't giving them no clout unless y'all be the sponsor. God is dope. Yeah. No.
This is my favorite T-shirts though. They so cheap.
You're right. I can't buy no more of their shirts. I gotta just buy the hoodies. They make great hoodies.
Yeah, the shirts.
But the shirts, some of them
I just like the colors. It be the colors, and when you like the first 2 times you wear it is dope.
That's
definitely
it. You only
dope.
get 2.
If they was thinking about sponsoring me, I just smoked that, right? They was thinking about hiring me as an ambassador. But it is no more secret shirts. I would have worn that, but I wanted to wear my new one and I don't have it yet. So it's on its way.
I gotta get my shirts. I've been procrastinating. I was supposed to do it.
That's right. Well, make sure you get my red one, Make sure you get the nothing but the blood shirt.
Maybe I'm gonna go through your company. I've been trying to find a company to go through.
My shirts are really nice though. I realized that I switched vendors. So the first shirt that I had for when I got them for me to wear for like advertisement and stuff, when I switched vendors to get them made, the second vendor, they was like 10 times better. I was like, dang, I wish I would have.
I just want mine to be like stretchy, not like dry fit, but like cottony stretchy. That's what I want.
Gilda make good shirt. That's who I got for mine.
Anyway, this has been another edition of the No Tact Talk podcast. It's always a reminder to live life on purpose and always live with a little no tact in your life. Peace.